Okay, guys, we are live. So for those listening at home, welcome to the Live from the Sword Coast podcast. My name is Kevin Madison, and I will be your friendly dungeon master this evening. Tonight, we are continuing on with our ongoing campaign playing. You know, every time I do the same fucking visual aid thing, and you would think that one of these times I'd get them together before go live.
No, I like the way that you build the suspense by not having it ready.
Totally. That was intentional. Absolutely. So what we're playing tonight is continuing on with our ongoing campaign, playing Greg Gillespie's incredible Barrowmaze Complete. Now using Kevin Crawford's very cool Scarlet Heroes. I'm actually using a kind of a heavily house-ruled version of that, in which I've stolen ideas from some of Kevin Crawford's other games, and you can find a link to those house rules in the description of this video. But right now, we're actually, in the last couple sessions, we're continuing on with our series of sessions that are an homage to the late, great Carl Sargent, set in this flying city of Serene, as featured in Carl's Top Ballista product. And with me on tonight's journey are the stars of the Friday night session. I'll go with the order you guys logged in. First up, Jeffrey.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff. I'm playing Badonk Bent Bucket, the Goblin Monk Acrobat. And tonight, we're drinking Barrowmoor.
Ooh.
Tasty.
And next up is Dave F.
Hey everybody, I'm Dave. I am playing Wes Littlefoot, Halfling Ranger, and tonight for a variety of drinks, but we're gonna go with a little bit of classic Crown Royal. I can't talk yet. I've clearly had a few already, and we're just gonna mix that with some San Pellegrino orange. That's about right.
Nice. The fine pour, Dave. It's a fine pour.
The two-finger pour.
Last but not least is Dave O.
Hey, folks. I'm Dave. I'll be playing Skurg, the smith, who is our resident alchemist and man about town, orc about town.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's a little bit of both, to be honest.
Right?
All right. So why don't we do the camera shuffle here, guys, and get into Roll20, and then let me log into Roll20 here. And then we'll do a session recap and see what we're doing tonight. Let me turn the old camera off here. Do a little bit of screen sharing here. Say la, present to everyone. Get that going. And here we are. Refresh. Okay. And once again, you hear the wind. That is blowing above the flying city. So,
sounds a lot like the wind in the Barrowmaze. Wow.
You guys should have a word with the sound engineer. Okay, so our scene tonight, we're going to jump in right away in medias res. And our scene opens outside the door of the Foul Pheasant. And it's early morning, and we can see sort of like people, running past it. It's a bit of a hubbub in the street, and people seem to be, in a hurry to get to the town square to sort of see something. And then the door to the Foul Pheasant is thrown open, and out of that door walks a gentleman. And I use that phrase very loosely. Looks a lot like this. He has a look of satiation on his face, kind of tasting, the whatever pasties and whatnot are in his mouth, and seems like he's got a look of intent on him, probably on his way towards some destination for breakfast. And as the door opens, we can hear this whoop, 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 whoop sound. And he turns and his head cranes up to where that sound seems to be coming from. And in the sky, what he sees, Dave, is this. An enormous flying city. You also hear this sound and as these bizarre-looking avian creatures seem to kind of fly and swoop around the flying city. Skurg, of course, looks up, says, "Yep," and then starts making his way towards the town square. We next see him approaching this landed plane for really. Do I have a picture here? I think I do. So you see something that looks like this, Dave, on the ground.
Okay.
You can see that there is some small gnomes that were standing around it. There, it looks like there's a little booth that's been set up that people seem to be buying tickets from. And it seems that some of the townsfolk from Helix are making their way onto the plane. You look over. Yep. And you're about to start making your way towards the line. It seems as if this thing is taking people up to the city itself. When someone grabs your shoulder and says, "Oh, no, you're not going without me." And you turn around, and it is Vazquez.
All right.
The hireling who you had hired a little while ago, the halberd-wielding warrior woman. Which is, I don't know where that goblin or the halfling have disappeared to, but they're paying, and you're paying, so I'm staying with you.
Well, all right. Come along, then.
So we see you guys sort of jamming your way into this thing. The device or the transport does not appear to have been constructed with the sturdy frame of a half-orc in mind. But after some rearranging and careful placement of smaller passengers next to you, you're able to get strapped into that thing. And what does Skurg do as this thing sort of like rolls forward and then immediately, lurches into the air?
Is this all new technology for him?
I think that, I think probably. Let's, so I'm looking at your traits, and I don't know whether there's any trait that would necessarily apply to like how, I want to know whether you've heard of this place or whether you might have seen it before. And I don't see anything that would be like a well-traveled kind of thing. So why don't you just give me an intellect or intelligence check? So be rolling 2d8. One thing I can add for you, Dave, that makes it easier. Let me just add a button here. Add. Nope, wrong thing. What am I doing here? Oh, here we go. Oops, wrong thing. Boom. Okay, Dave, if you go into the third tab of your character sheet, the attributes and abilities thing.
Okay.
Do you see under abilities, there's something that says new ability there?
Bear with me here. Yep.
Okay. Can you click on that to show in macro bar? And then you should have something show up in the bottom left of your screen. A little button.
Oh, yeah.
Can you click on that? Boom. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. What did I do? What happened?
So what that does is any trait checks, saving throws, things like that, you're rolling 2d8. So what I've done is I've set up a little button for all you guys so you can just click on that because there isn't something on the character sheet that does that. What you've just done is rolled a crit basically on it. So you know precisely about this. So here's what I think. You remember how you asked me like 20 sessions ago about learning some kind of steampunky stuff? Like trying to make a drill or something like that?
Yeah.
You know why you did that? Is because you had seen the flying city of Sargent before, and you'd seen the amazing inventions that the sky gnomes of Sargent have been able to craft, including these amazing flying vessels that you're now riding in. So you know precisely what this is, and you're like, yes, this is someone who can teach me the shit I want to learn.
Okay.
So you, yeah, and that's, I guess that explains also your reaction to be like, Everyone else seemed to be kind of gobsmacked by this, the arrival of this thing. So we see you sort of, traveling up there, and the screen then goes black, and we see white lettering on the screen that says 3 days later. And what we see is on this busy street that's full of a bunch of unusual creatures. Skurg, you knew this before, Skurg, so I'm not telling you anything new, but of course the streets of Serene are full of gnomes like Dr. Peter Crankman, Dr. Egon Springloader, Dr. Ray Stones, and Winston Dreadmore. You also see these unusual creatures that you've had explained to you are Nagpa, like Wiltar Peck here. You also see sphinxes, harpies, and pegatours. So you're up here with what we see is you walk out of this alehouse, and you've got these two big casks under your arms, and we see Skurg turn around and say, "Come on!" And Vaz walks out carrying this big bag of something, and she's like, "Are you sure we're not going to be able to find them?" And Skurg says, "No, come on, let's go." And we can see there's big casks of ale, basically, he's got. They're not really that big because they're built they're sized for gnomes. So they're easily able to fit underneath they're like demi kegs. And you are making your way through the crowd, trying to be careful not to like jostle anyone or hit anyone or anything like that. And that's when you sort of almost walk into a little goblin and a little halfling that you know. And you guys kind of bump into each other, and Badonk, you can see Skurg and Vaz and Wes. What do you guys say?
Mr. Skurg, hey, how are you?
Boys, it's good to see you again.
Yes, it's been fabulous. I'm not cursed anymore.
That's wonderful, Wes. And Skurg claps him on the back.
I didn't know I was cursed, though. In fact, I didn't really want to get uncursed, and it was kind of all Badonk's doing. He just kind of like led me along, and we got attacked by these like bird-like guys. It was really dangerous. I lost my dagger. Oh, you missed so much.
That's great, Wes.
What have you been doing?
Well,
where you been, buddy?
This should tell you what I've been doing. And he holds up the casks.
Well, Skurg's actually, what you notice is Skurg's actually got a fair amount of like grease and grime on him. I'm not sure that Skurg is necessarily the most fastidious guy you've ever met, but there does seem to be a little more grease and grime on him than you've seen before. And he's got this big leather smock on as well. Vaz, you see kind of poke around, walks out and says, "Where have you been?"
We've been here in the city. Where have you been?
Looking for you.
Well, isn't there one obvious place to look?
We've been up here for 2 days. Him spending all this time in this workshop.
So it sounds like the lady wants her money. I'll let her deal with you two now.
Oh, sure. Certainly. Oh, yes, I guess we did hire you. We haven't been to the Barrowmaze in a couple of days, but we could still pay you. And we could. Her hand on her hip, she sort of like adjusts the thing she's carrying, puts her hand on her hip, and says, "Pay or not." So, whether you go to the Barrowmaze or not concerns me little. Correct.
She sort of emphasizes the little part.
Oh, and yes, absolutely. I was not trying to get out of paying. I was just running through in my head what we've actually been doing. Lots of really interesting things, mind you. Okay, so we'll pay you. Yes. Wes fishes out some coins.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like 15 silvers a day or something like that? I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember. Whatever it is. So the Skurg, what you've been doing is basically you managed to at one of the pubs, you actually met a Sky Gnome inventor. And you've been spending the last couple of days sort of helping him and trying to pick up everything you can about this particular type of bizarre alchemy / engineering that they seem to do in the city.
Okay.
He's one of the guys who crafts a variety of the flying machines that you see here.
So how much would we say Skurg's been able to kind of take up in the amount of time?
What I would suggest is one of the things that we do with this new system, Dave, is when you gain a level, you will gain an ability to either add a point to one of your existing traits or add a new one that reflects what you've done over the past level. So, for instance, if you wanted to add a trait when you hit level 4 of, gnomish engineering apprentice or something like that, you would be able to get that trait.
Would this be one of those situations where my self-taught alchemist might apply? I mean, if you make checks.
I think you've been trying to build on that. There are certain fluids that are used in the in this stuff that your alchemy would apply, and because that's what I mean. It's alchemical. It's an alchemical process by which they create the fuel that seems to drive these things. They seem to drink it. So there's a degree, but it is a whole new area. It's something that sounds like you've been fascinated by since you were a wee half orc. You're learning an awful lot.
Okay, so it is in fact a new trait.
It is a new, it's something brand new. It's a distinct area of study. Different from alchemy.
Okay.
Mechanically, what you were likely to be able to do is, you may be able to learn how to craft some of these items, like firearms, like gear-driven objects, things like that.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. So, what are you guys doing? So, Skurg, that's what you've been doing. You're collecting ale to celebrate finishing up a project with the guy that you've met, and the guy you've been working with is his proper name is Oswald Thistleborough, but you've just been calling him Ozzy.
Okay. Is he still back in Helix or?
No, he's up here. You've been apprenticing up here.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you, not surprisingly, he seems to enjoy drink almost as much as you do. And despite his very, very diminutive size, he seems to be able to hold his liquor quite well as well. And now that you guys have finished up the project that he's been working on for the last couple of days with your help, he wants to celebrate. Hence the casks of ale and the food that Vaz is carrying.
Nice.
I'm going to abstain. Every time I have just even a couple of small drinks, things go to shit. I'm just saying.
Wes is looking a little greener on the gills at this point, too.
Oh, Wes, come on. That's no way to be.
Hey, last time I drank, someone stuffed me in a bag and tried to kidnap me.
Yeah, that was great, wasn't it?
I almost died. I lost a magical dagger, and the donk almost died. And then, it was bad. It was pretty much just all bad.
That's a really negative outtake, Wes. I think what you need to fix that is a drink.
Tattoos. Let's go drinking so I can get my body tattooed. Oh, sorry.
Hey, I'll have you know I'm really proud of these.
Yeah.
Now, I'm really proud of these now.
Sure.
So Vaz says, what have you been doing?
Did you not hear?
Us?
Got kidnapped, almost died, lost a magic dagger, talked to a sphinx, got uncursed, working in a shop. Could do that anytime.
Made a deal with the Sphinx?
With the Sphinx?
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, we can't break that deal. That could be some serious bad.
So it's actually a good thing that you're here, Skurg. We could probably use your help.
Yeah, sure. Is there trouble to get into?
A little bit.
All
We have
right.
to find a sword for a pegatour.
To get the curse removed, we had to agree to help out a pegatour.
Okay, that doesn't sound like too much trouble.
Find
We'll
a
see.
missing sword? We don't
We
know much
haven't met
about
up with
him.
them yet.
So, what seems to be the problem?
We were just waiting to bump into you, and here you are. Timing's great. Let's go.
We were actually on our way to meet up with him and find more about this mission that he needs us to do for him.
Which could result in copious celebrating afterwards.
Well,
I
I
believe
mean,
he's lost his sword. I'm guessing in the
We're not sure if
Barrowmaze.
that's a euphemism or double entendery or whatever that stuff is. It could be
from
something like that.
What I understood from the Sphinx, his sword is somewhere in the Barrows.
are we sure we don't want to celebrate first and then go see this guy? Because, I mean, these casks aren't going to drink themselves.
Skurg does appear to be dressed like a blacksmith at this point, and you do notice that Vaz's omnipresent halberd is not with her. She doesn't have that. Her armor's not on.
They would need to get geared up.
Well, was it a bar that we were meeting Quiniston in?
No, you needed to find him in the Pegatour Eries.
Oh,
Right
the
in the-
Erie. Okay.
Yeah, right in the middle of the city here. You guys are probably somewhere around here, in like near the Gemini Market or Shops Row. You're making your way back towards the area when you ran into.
What time of the day is it now?
It's still probably like midday or something like that. Because I think you guys went and saw the Sphinx pretty much right first thing in the morning. So it's probably it may not even be noon yet. Because that whole interaction really didn't take all that long.
Right.
Well, being that it's noon, it would be kind of late to get started on something. You always start adventures in the morning, right?
Wes is looking at the casks as he says that.
Try not to, but...
Attaboy, Wes.
I think your next level trait there, Wes, is going to be remorseless alcoholic.
I don't think that we can ignore this meeting. The Sphinx was very clear that if I didn't carry this out, it was going to come after me in some kind of way that I would not appreciate.
Yeah, but he didn't say you had to carry it out right this minute.
Well,
I wasn't there. I didn't hear.
it certainly didn't sound like something I could put off.
The Sphinx
All right.
is kind of super ultra powerful.
You didn't see this thing, Skurg. It's very intimidating.
All right, well, I'll tell you what. Let's go do what needs to be done. But I'm keeping these with me, and when we're done, we're all having some.
Well, it's actually it was Ozzy that paid for those, so you might want to make sure you drop them off or something. Your stuff is all back at Ozzy's shop as well, too, I imagine, because you didn't expect to be running to these guys.
We have to go back there anyway.
Ozzy's shop is actually just on the far side of the Pegatour areas anyway in Science Park.
All right.
How far is that from Mr. Egon guys?
Yeah, they are actually probably just on the cusp of the Gnome Quarter in Science Park. So probably.
What do you want with them?
Well, I'm thinking Mr. Skurg might like them because they're like crafty fixer scientist dudes.
Ah, yes.
And I want to make sure that Egon knows that he doesn't have to use his giant jumper cables on me.
Okay, fair enough. Quickly stop there, tell them that you're okay, introduce them to Mr. Skurg, and then head out.
Sure.
Okay. So where do you guys want to go first then? The Eries, the Aussie's shop, or the shop of the doctors?
Well, we should probably drop off the kegs first because...
I'm just going to write this down because I think I've called their business at different things. Probably because it's a work in progress. I'll call them the Wraith Chasers.
Okay, cool. Because I'm assuming carrying the casks of beer around is heavy work.
Skurg does have a one of his traits is laborer, which actually and mechanically adds one, like basically counts his strength as one higher for the purpose of endurance or of encumbrance.
So he's like a half-orc donkey. I mean, like strong.
You mean half-bred and sterile?
No, I meant like
mule.
Strong, could carry lots of stuff. I'm not that strong.
Skurg is making mental note that Wes will be getting less of the ale.
Mr. Skurg, it's so good to see you again. I kind of missed you a lot when we were almost dying and needed help.
Thanks for calling. That was touching and yet quite unneeded.
Okay. I love playing a character with a 9 charisma. This is so much fun.
Okay, so I'm sorry, guys. Which was it next? The Pegatours Eerie, the Aussie Shop, or the Wraith Chasers?
Shop of Horrors?
Let's go to the Wraith Chasers first.
Okay. So you guys make your way through the streets of Serene. It's your second or third day up here. Definitely Skurg's third day up here. But even then, there's still, like as you guys are making your way past the Pegatours Eerie's, you can see over the tops of the houses and buildings that are near here, you see that same giant, 20 feet tall, like towering over the houses. Boom, 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 walking along. He seems to have something in his hand and seems to be his eyes trained down to make sure he's not stepping on any of the smaller people. There are, Pegatours, and there are harpies that are flying overhead. You pass by these shuffling Nagpa who kind of, give looks towards Wes. And you then find yourself making your way up to you eventually reach, I should say, the quarters of the Wraith Chasers. And you see the name there's a freshly painted sign because they've once again changed the name of their business. And there's that familiar narrow red door on the outside of this fairly narrow 3-story building. What do you guys do?
Knock on the door, I guess.
Okay. Dunk, 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 dunk. And you hear from inside, "Just a minute! Just a minute!" And then the door is thrown open wide, and you see Dr. Ray Stones again. And Ray looks at you guys. It says, "You're back.
Ray,
Did you see the Sphinx?
we did.
And was it successful?" And you hear from inside, "Should I get my cables?"
No cables required.
No cables required.
Well, tell me more about the cables.
Is there someone else who's cursed? You hear from inside the house or the building, and Ray says, "Not that we know of." And Ray looks up at the big human and the big half-orc with you and says, "Oh, you brought friends. Hello.
I'd like to introduce you to our friends here.
Is it business?"
Oh, I don't think we have any specific business.
Oh.
Mr. Skurg is like very handy, fixy, kind of like you guys, but with alchemical stuff.
And you see someone shoulders his way past Ray, who looks like this, complete with the reflective goggles on his face. And he brings something out, Skurg, which to you looks like some kind of like, it looks almost like a club, but it's got all these, metal copper tubings things in it. And then he hits a button and it kind of, it all unfolds into these 4 kind of metal arms, and he's hitting a button, and there's kind of like there's little lights on the end of each of them, and it's moving around, and he's moving this thing, gesturing up and down near you. He stands probably like close to about 1/3 of your height, because these gnomes are quite tiny. And he finishes moving this thing up and down. You're still just standing there with these 2 big casks under your shoulder, under your arms, and he stops and reads it. His shoulders slump. He turns to Ray. No curse. He turns and walks back in, his thing collapsing back in on itself. Ray says, "Go, come in." And you hear from inside, there's, as Dr. Peter Crankman is making his way by, he says, "Oh, he brought drinks for us."
Well, might as well.
You can put those right over there, fella.
Well, why don't we just have a tipple right now? These aren't to stay.
What are you talking about? Who ordered the delivery here? We've got an uppity delivery boy.
He's not a delivery boy. He's my friend.
Your friend's a delivery boy?
No.
Oh.
Friend just happens to be carrying some rather large casks full of liquid.
Winston walks in as well and says, "Did I hear something about drinks?"
Hey! Now, this is a man that I can get to like. And Skirgle put down one of the casks and pour a little out for the group, actually.
Okay.
It's opened.
So
that means can't steal it back up.
Wes is going to end up as a vivisection subject again. So once drinks are poured for everyone, what do you guys want to like? Is there anything you guys want to talk about, or you want to share?
Mostly just an introduction. I'll tell them the tale of the Sphinx and about the deal that we made.
Egon asks you, Wes, did you keep the cursed object?
I think the Sphinx kicked it into outer space. I mean, off the side of the stream.
His shoulders slump again. He says, "I suppose if we track the oscillations of the arcane," and Ray says, "Let it go, Egon. It's gone." Winston says, "Well, what are you doing? What have you been doing up here, big fella?"
Obviously referring to Skirg.
Yeah, everybody else is about 3'5".
Yeah. Well, I've been learning. I've been learning some of your magics up here.
Our magics? Are you a wizard of some sort? He sort of looks up and down, and Peter says, "If you are, you're disguising yourself well."
Well, a wizard of scientific sorts.
An engineer, perhaps. And Ray steps forward. An engineer? Where did you study?
Well, yeah, with my good friend. I'm sorry, what was his name again?
Ozzy.
With my good friend Ozzy.
Ozzy Thistleborough?
That's right, the one and only.
Ray turns around and says to you, Badonk, he's the guy who flew us out.
Oh.
The guy who, because it actually was a fifth gnome who flew you out of the Barrowmoor, the guy who was flying the Ecto-1. Right. He says, "Oh yes, he's the one who built the Ecto-1."
Oh wow!
You're studying with someone quite clever. He's a gifted mechanic and engineer. And Egon says, "He's a braggart." And Winston says, "We think that he may be a little jealous." Egon says, "I could have built the Ecto-1." And Peter says, "Yeah, if we're okay with blowing up." You see that there's obviously some kind of backstory behind this stuff. But Winston says, "Well, what is your," or Ray says to you, Skirg, "What's your plan then? You plan to stay with us when we go on? The city's passing on in a couple of days."
No, unfortunately, I have things to attend to down below, but it's been a wild ride.
Vaz actually says he has to recover his brother's sword.
Well, and my brother's body to boot.
So that's one sword, two. We have to get two swords now?
Skirg, would you give me a wisdom check, please? So you can add your wisdom, roll 2d8, add your wisdom modifier, and if you've got a trait that would apply... I don't think there's a trait that would apply here necessarily. Let's just see how you do.
Okay.
Was Sir Albus a pegatour?
Okay. Wes. Okay. Wes and Bedonk, you guys have both met Vaz before, right?
Yeah, she went out with us one day.
Yeah.
Sure. Both of you guys give me a wisdom check as well, please.
A wisdom check?
Yeah. Let's see here.
So that's just 2d8.
Yeah, and you've got a +1 now, Bedonk, because of your traits going up.
Oh, really? I thought it said 14. That it.
No, 13.
Oh, cool. Well, then that's this.
Yeah,
I got a 9.
Nice. Okay.
I only got a total of 8.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the so sure, you got a lot of business here. Oh, then wait. Winston says, were these intended for Ozzy? He gestures towards the cask.
Well, I don't know that he could have drank all of it. Well, actually, I know that he could have drank all of it, but that's just being greedy.
Peter steps forward and says, "He'll be fine if you leave just the one here. You can tell him that Egon said it was okay." Egon kind of looks up. He says, "I said no such thing."
you know, I don't think that I'm going to do that, but we can enjoy it for the moment.
What about this? Why don't we empty the contents of the cask and we'll fill it up with something else and he'll be none the wiser. You just make sure to drink from the other one.
Well, by the time he gets through the first one, he's probably not going to care what's in the second one anyways. I like it.
Peter looks up and he says, "I knew there's a reason I liked you, kid. Come on, Egon, get a bucket." Egon says, "I'm not getting a bucket," but Winston does seem like he's up and off to help him out. Anything else you guys want to ask these guys before you head out to drop off Ozzy's now bucket of water and bucket of beer?
Do they have any technology lying around that Skurg might be able to that catches his fancy or his interest?
So what this the sort of main the big room that you're in is sort of an empty hall, and the first thing you passed was one of these unusual flying contraptions, all painted white with red accents on it, and then there's the word in common on the side, Ecto 1. And then there's sort of like it's kind of like a relaxing or lounge area. But further to the back, there's all this crazy scientific equipment. Like you can imagine like a Jacob's ladder there. And there's like there's tubes and there's gears and stuff like that. Do you ask anything about that or make any reference to that?
Well, Bedonk will also ask if our trap is ready.
Oh, yes. Ray says, "Of course, yeah. Egon?" And he says, "I'll get in them." So he races in the back and brings back, I think you had 2 coming, didn't you?
Yeah, we negotiated for 2.
Yeah. So he brings you back a thing that's kind of looks like it's, it's a fairly elaborate metal box with a bunch of tubing, and it hums very quietly as well, too. And seems to have like little sparks that come off of it every now and then. And he says, "Here you are, 2 necrospectral containment units." He drops these things down, and they're pretty big. They're about the size of like a shoebox. Not as wide, they're narrow, but they are fairly big by comparison to you guys.
Like a Skurg shoebox?
Yeah, like a Skurg shoebox, correct.
Right,
not like a
my shoebox is pretty small.
Yeah. Well, you're a halfling though, so maybe you got bigger feet.
That is true.
So what he says is that you must be careful that you contain only 1 spectral entity in it at a time. 2 will overtax its capabilities and could have, and he kind of swallows hard, unfortunate consequences.
Ooh, we don't want those.
What do you do with it after you've got it in the box?
Well, we have a larger containment unit in which we deposits the necrospectral entity. You don't have such a thing, though. I suppose you just have to leave it in there until you let it out. Or
okay. Right.
I would caution against that, though, says Egon. The act of containment does seem to leave them in a sense of perpetual agitation. And Winston sort of says he means it keeps them in constant pain.
Ooh.
So then when you let them out, they're not happy.
Peter sort of is sloshing around with his bucket and says, that would be a mild way of putting it.
Well, not our problem.
Unless we let them out. So we don't let them out. Okay.
We don't let them out.
We have to go into the Barrowmaze again. It's full of undead. Did any of your gadgets do stuff against undead, or help, or detect, or?
The focus of our study, says Egon, has been on necrospectral entities, not corporeal necro entities. Corporeal necro entities, the typical and mundane units or mundane approaches to such creatures are typically effective.
Like this magic hammer that returns when you swing. Woo, 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 woo. Wes starts swinging the hammer of throwing.
Winston kind of goes, look at that thing.
Want to see it?
Oh, yeah. He takes it and he says, this. I can make some good use out of this.
It comes back to your hand after you throw it.
Kind of looks at it, looks over at a chair and hurls it over at this chair. The chair's knocked to the ground and then it reappears in his hands. And he says, I like this.
It's great.
He hands it back to you. What Ray says, he says, well, we have a prototype of something else that might assist with some necrospectral entity or some necrotic entities. There is a disruptive field that seems to surround some of these creatures that proves quite lethal to living creatures. We have developed a buffer that will protect the living entity and its living field from damaging by the necrotic content and energy. What he means, guys, in a game sense, there are some undead that will drain levels. And what he's saying is that there is a thing that will basically give you like a buffer zone for that. It will take your first hit for level drain.
Wes was just trying to get his head to wrap around that, and his brain was starting to hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, like one of the things that characterizes these older versions of D&D is you get level drain, where like you're hit and then the effect is you lose a level. Now in Scarlet Heroes, you don't lose it permanently. You'll regain that after a day's rest, but you lose all the capabilities of that level, including like spell spell slots, resonance points, and capabilities too. So it can be pretty lethal, and it does sometimes lead to a bit of a death spiral. So something that would, suck up the first one of those hits might be pretty effective or pretty helpful. Is that something that might be of interest to you?
Yeah, I think that would be.
Are you still testing these out? Do they work?
Egon says, mostly.
Field tests?
Field tests? In theory, they work quite well.
Scourge will take a look at it and see if he can improve it.
Okay. I'm going to set the difficulty fairly high here.
They are doctors.
You've got absolutely no training in this whatsoever. But I'll let you make an intelligence check. Let's see if you've what you've picked up from your time with Ozzy.
So just at the bottom left hand.
Yeah, just click on that, and then your intelligence modifier is a +3. Okay. So you grab this thing, and it's kind of like it's a belt, basically. It's a belt with like two kind of suspenders on it that you wear over yourself. And you put it on, And you know, it's a little, ooh, this thing's clearly built for gnome sizes. You're like, all right, let's see here. Well, maybe I could do. Egon looks at you and says, "Yeah, that happens sometimes." The smell of burnt orc hair is filling the room. So, you know that whatever you were doing did not work. Skurg, do you want to try again?
Do it.
Yeah, sure, actually.
Okay.
Wes is tempted to walk over and push the same button.
Okay, so you go over and you're like, all right, I got this. And he's not moving at all, and he's not saying anything, and a little bit of drool is starting to run down the side of his mouth. Egon says, "Yeah, that happens sometimes too." Ray, get the tongs. So what do you guys want to do?
So if we don't do that, like pushing the button and the pulling up, does that mean it doesn't zap you?
Skurg's eyes are still like moving around. His entire body is not otherwise moving, but his eyes are. Ray comes back with these big tongs and gloves, and he walks over. He says, "This will just take a moment." And he goes over. He puts his goggles down on his eyes. He gets over to like carefully brings the tongs into where the dial is in a belt. Skurg, you see this happening, and then it gets to the point where you can't see it anymore because your face is or your head is locked in this one position. But the other two guys can see. He goes over and clicks the tongs down on the dial, and then very carefully turns it, and finally, Skurg, you're able to move again.
What in the good God? We don't need that. We do not need that.
Egon says, if you, as a warning, I would use all of these devices only as intended. And patent is pending with the Phaeacian Patent Office. And Badonk says, you might want, or not to be, he kind of leans into you, Badonk, and says, you might want to make sure that he is explained how to operate those as well.
He looks over at the traps. So what do you guys want to do? Skurg, what are you doing?
Yeah, Skurg is at this point throwing the belt off.
It's off, and
he's back away as far as he can. He's plugged up the cask, and in a huff, he's turned on his heel and he's ready to leave.
As he walks by to the gentle, acrid smell of burned hair follows behind him.
You guys smell that? Is that coming from me?
Are we going to Ozzy's now, Mr. Skurg?
Oh God, yes.
All right, goodbye, Mr. Crankman.
Well, so we're here.
Doctor, sorry.
Ray steps forward,
guys.
and he says, congratulations on getting rid of your curse, Wes.
Thank you. I really appreciate the advice and not letting Egon zap me.
Egon says, it would have worked.
He kind of kicks the ground. Anyway, yeah, so that's you guys head out. Badonk, any last things you want to say?
Well, thanks for everything, guys. It was a pleasure doing business with you. I had a lot of fun. Hopefully we never see you again.
We hope so. Good luck with the traps and good luck with your adventures. I hope the Barrowmaze doesn't kill you.
I really hope so too.
Goodbye.
And you guys head out. So as you guys are, it's going to be a couple of blocks before you guys get to Ozzy's place. Anything you guys talk about or share?
Did that hurt, Mr. Skurg?
Skurg just looks over at Wes and just, shut up, Wes.
You're still kind of getting weird, like spasms, making their way up and down your back.
Skurg is a little nonplussed. He felt that his time with Ozzy kind of may have prepared him for this technology, and
you know what this is? It's the equivalent of like doing a semester of Spanish and then being like, aha, saying something to someone who speaks Spanish, and then being bombarded by this like wave of words you don't fucking understand.
Basically.
Yeah.
Like, I paid for Rosetta Stone for what?
Exactly. Where is it? Donde es la biblioteca? Oh God. Okay. So you guys make your way through the streets and then of the Gnome Quarter and then into Science Park. And Science Park is a much more eclectic kind of mix of buildings. Dave, the way I described the layout on Serene is they're making maximum use out of the space they've got. So if you picture kind of those like overbuilt like Mediterranean towns and cities where there's, you know, like balconies and stairs and stuff like that that are constantly leading to other places above other shops and stuff like that. That's what Serene is like. It's also quite open on a lot of these balconies because there's so many creatures that live here that are capable of flight. And Science Park has all sorts of there does seem to be a preponderance of sky gnomes that are in here as well. There seem to be the ones who mostly make up this neighborhood. And you wander along and you get to one shop that's located underneath this kind of like there's another building with a big staircase, and there's a patio up there where it sounds like there's some kind of outdoor, you know, like maybe cafe or something like that. And he's underneath there. And there's these big wooden doors that sort of would be like a barn door thing. And inside there is a vessel that looks very similar to the Ecto 1, but it's a little bit bigger and not as cleanly finished. It seems definitely to be a bit of a prototype. And working on this, you see another, where is he? There he is. Another gnome who looks like this. Skurg, you of course know him. This is Ozzy. He's working away, you know, underneath, and you're as context, you knew this thing was finished. So you, for some reason, you know, he's back working at it, and it seems weird that he's doing that. But then he sort of, I guess, hears you walk in, and without coming in from underneath this this vehicle, he says, "Well, it took you long enough."
Well, it's hard to get 2 casks through this town.
2 casks? How many did you drink before you got here? I'm parched.
All right, well, let's get into it. Hey, I thought you were done with this thing.
No, it's just one thing I'm checking. Give it to Otbot, and come here and see if you can help me. And you, of course, knew who Otbot is, Skurg. You hear this clank, clank, as Ozzy's assistant shows up. And that's what it looks like.
Cool.
That is Otbot. So he walks over, this mechanical gnome-looking thing, clank, 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 and he takes the 2 casks, clank, clank, and he's about the same size as a gnome as well, so I guess he's probably just carrying these casks. He's a lot stronger than he looks. Gets the casks, turns, and clink, 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 goes walking away with these 2 things. And Otbot kind of stops and turns and says, "How many glasses or how many mugs?" And Ozzy says something, anything. "What do you mean, how many mugs?" And he's rolled out, and he's kind of wiping his hands off. He's on like a wooden kind of like pallet with rollers to roll underneath the vehicle. Rolls out and kind of, you know, sits up. Says, "Oh, you brought friends then? Well, hi there. I see now why you took so long."
Hello, nice to meet you. Wow, nice to meet you again.
This is my friend Badonk, and I've got Wes Littlefoot here.
Badonk and Wes, my name's Oswald Thistleborough. You can call me Ozzy. And that's Otbot. Rank, rank.
Ozzy's taught me everything I've known for the last 3 days, so.
Huh. What
You may
little
not
we
remember,
could.
sir, but we did actually meet.
Oh, you're that goblin. I thought you looked familiar. You're the one who was in the Barrowmaze.
That's right.
Yeah.
We are the masters of the Barrowmaze.
Well, you know, Masters might be a little strong.
Okay, we are frequenters of. It doesn't have the same ring, correct?
Hmm.
No, I appreciate your enthusiasm, though, Wes. That was Keep at it.
You guys are the ones who helped out Ray and his friends, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. One of you, you decided to stick around and see the city, I see.
Well, we've kind of got ourselves involved in something.
Involved in something, eh? Thought you were the masters of the Barrowmaze. Otpot says again, rip heat. How many mugs? Ozzy looks over and says, well, you can count, can't you, Buckethead? And he looks over, then turns and walks off without saying anything else. So Ozzy says, well, will you join us for a drink? We got to celebrate here.
Sure.
We have to go and... Oh,
One quick drink.
okay.
And he pats his thing. It says, this is the latest beauty that your friend Skurg's helped me with here. The only thing we need to do, Skurg, is now that she's ready, it's bad luck to take her out without a name.
What is it?
Well, he looks up at Skurg.
Well, you want me to do the honors there, Ozzy?
It seems right. You helped as much as I.
Did
Well-
you build this, Mr. Skirk?
Well, I helped. I can't take all the credit, but hey, Ozzy, you know, I guess from a sense of commemoration, you know, your wife that passed, wasn't her name Delilah?
Yeah?
Well,
Like calling her Deli, though.
well, what do you think?
The Deli, eh? I think she'd like that. He looks up. Well done. He, at that, Otbot kind of comes walking back with, you know, a tray full of, let's see, it'd be 5 mugs, I guess, and passes them around. And Ozzy picks it up and says, here we go, Skurg, to Deli. He clinks with you guys, and has a drink. So, as you talk to him, I guess, do you want to share with him what you guys are doing? Badonk and Wes?
The trouble we got in?
Yeah.
Or what you're doing afterwards. I mean, he's probably asking like what you're doing right now.
Right. Yeah, I think I don't have a problem telling him.
Sure. He seems to be friends with Mr. Skirk.
Yeah, we've made a deal with the Sphinx, and now we have to go help a Mr. Quiniston, kind of a pegatour.
Oh, a pegatour. Have you dealt with their kind before? I don't think they're common in these parts.
Oh, I've never dealt with them before.
No, if you dealt with any elves before, you probably are familiar with what to expect. Although they do like looking down their nose at people, but being as big as they are, I suppose that's easy to do. They can be a bit bound up in their own codes of honor and such, but they're pretty reliable sorts, and they do provide quite a bit of defense to the city. Did you know the first pegatours that came here were mercenaries? But they enjoyed it so much they stayed.
Interesting.
They can be good, quite powerful warriors if needed, and quite the aerial combatants as well. Have you heard? Did you learn anything about the top ballista from talking to Ray?
He didn't mention anything about that.
Well, you see, it's not just the charm of the sky gnomes that keeps this place safe. We've got magical and engineered defenses all around the perimeter. But the primary defense for aerial defense is the gnomish sky vehicles piloted by the finest pilots anywhere in the known world, the graduates of the Top Ballista Academy.
Top ballista.
I was actually a member of the Top Ballista myself before I decided to retire.
Oh, wow.
I tell you, it's really not much life. I can't speak to what the Barrowmaze is like, but getting in a dogfight with you and your squadron mates and trying to drive off a hungry and greedy red dragon. Now that's some stuff that gets your heart racing.
Why would you fight with dogs?
Well, by that I mean, so I spend so much time around the top of the list of aces, you kind of get it in your lexicon. I mean, aerial combat.
Lexicon?
And he's sort of flying around. He sort of draws, starts gesturing with his hands about what the things, and he tells you some, really complex maneuver that he and his squadron mates did to take down or drive off, I should say, an aggressive red dragon. And yeah, it's quite the story.
Impressive.
Well,
Wes is looking at all the hand gestures and starting to wonder if he's kind of like Vax.
Probably, yeah. No, I think this guy actually knows the difference between him and Vax. I think, or at least what Wes would likely conclude. Wes or Vax has an enormous amount of book learning. He can tell you facts and whatever else about a bunch of different things. This guy tells you things he's experienced and things he's been through.
I'm just thinking, like, all these hand motions, usually something sparky.
No. Like what he's doing is he's showing you, like he's describing it like the way that the dogfight would have been. So like it wouldn't have been something that would be difficult for you to follow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah.
Wes isn't that dumb.
No. Wes isn't that dumb. So Ozzy asks, what is it that the Sphinx has asked you to do?
Well, he's asked us to help this pegatour.
Just help the pegatour?
That's all we know.
Yeah, but what does that mean, Badonk?
Well, the pegatour has lost his sword, is what we know. And he'd like help getting it back.
Ozzy's eyebrows, those bushy eyebrows of his, kind of go up kind of knowingly. Like,
just to get back his sword, right?
That's what we were told.
It's
this pegatour?
I don't know the pegatour of which you speak, but I do know sphinxes, and I do know not to go to them for help because they sure managed to cram an awful lot of intent behind a very few words.
If you had a death curse, would you go to a sphinx to get that removed?
Oh, they're certainly powerful creatures, and they are certainly wise, but they always have some kind of angle that they're working. Unfortunately, they're sometimes more clever, which comes from the age of those things. So you can't always see what their angle is, not until it's too late. So you're going to get a sword for him? Probably no problem there. But it's probably going to be a bit more complicated than what the Sphinx has led you to believe, though I wouldn't tell them that I told you that.
So what you're trying to say is the sword, it may not be just a sword?
Well, I imagine that the reason that... let me put it this way. I got many friends throughout this city from all the different inhabitants. I got friends who are Fenar. I got friends who are Nagpa. I got friends who are Harpies. There's even a couple of gremlins that I like, though I wouldn't let them near my shop. I'm not friends with any sphinxes because I'm not sure sphinxes have friends.
Well, we didn't think that the price would be low to have such a curse removed. So we are not surprised.
What I imagine, and what I mean by that, I don't think this pegatour is a friend of theirs either. That pegatour, to get a favor from a sphinx like that, it's probably something he's paying for as well.
Didn't you say that, Badonk? Wasn't it a pegatour's?
Right. Well,
paying
we expect that he has given something to the Sphinx of value in order to get this sword.
So we should get going then.
We better get going.
Well, and
This
Ozzy
one's had too many. And he
hops up. He walks over to Skurg. He says, Skurg, we're heading on in 2 days. You sure you wouldn't want to stick around? You can see the whole wide world from Serene.
You know what, Ozzy? Just send me a postcard. I'll catch up with you.
All right. Best of luck to you, big guy. And he puts his hand up at you. You shake his hand. He does that like 2-hand shake thing, but his hands are so tiny that they're, barely grabbing like 1.5 of your fingers.
Hey, good luck with Delhi, Ozzy?
Thanks. And Otbot kind of turns to you and says, I'll miss you.
Oh, but I'll miss you too. Keep this idiot safe, okay?
He nods forward and back. Affirmative.
So what is this thing you made?
Which thing? This guy? He gestures back to the to Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
It's an aerocraft, but of a different variety. See, most of the things we use at the top ballista are driven directly forward. But this little fella, he's like Ecto. We can go back and forth and up and down. You ever seen a dragon hover?
Nope.
It's a sight you wouldn't want to see twice. But they're amazing creatures. They can move fast as a whip moving forward or hover in place and deliver their payload of their breath. And it got me thinking, get this to move in dragon mode. And that's what old Ellie can do.
Interesting.
Good job, Mr. Scarlet.
Well, hey, I mean, if we're able to get back from the Barrowmaze, I'll see if I can put one together myself.
Ozzy kind of, the corner of his mouth goes up in a smirk that he tries to hide to not be rude. And he says, that's what I like about you, Skurg. Never afraid of a difficult task or trying something new.
Or a difficult cask.
Yeah, I think we'll let you test drive it first, Skurg.
That's a great idea.
It would be my pleasure.
All right.
Okay.
Goodbye, Mr. Ozzy.
Yeah, goodbye, Wes. Lovely to meet you. Badonk, nice to see you again, too.
Lovely.
Yeah,
Yes,
good to see you.
And we'll see you. And Vaz, don't forget your halberd. Hope you find the guy you're looking for.
Skurg, you might want to put your armor on. That apron doesn't look very sturdy.
Would you guys kindly all give me wisdom checks again, too?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's the T.
Stuff you guys all are amazing at. It's a shame that Werbin isn't here. He's the one who
Oh,
Badonk!
Toledo. But I'm just about max rolled that one.
Hell yeah. Whoa, Skurg as well, too.
Wes got a 5.
Both of you guys, he says that, Ozzy says that comment about, I hope you find the guy you're looking for. And she gets this, like, Dave, I'm not sure you haven't, I can't remember if you met Vaz yet.
No,
Vasquez?
I don't recall.
Okay. So Vasquez is, for you, Dave, for your benefit, and for those listening at home, Vasquez is actually an NPC that one of our very generous viewers, James Henderson, has he contributed to the Heroes Save Villages campaign and claimed the reward to add an NPC to this. So Vaz is an NPC that he has added, and the character is based on Vasquez from Aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the personality you normally get from her, is this take no shit, hard as nails kind of fighter. But when Ozzy mentions that thing that, what do you call it? That he mentions that, the thing about, the man, she gets this very, very flustered look on her face and kind of like looks back and forth. And both Badonk and Skurg, you notice this. you've never heard in the couple of days that Badonk and West that you guys had been with her before, you've never heard anything about this. So I think, Badonk, you're probably the one who makes them, gets the most sense out of this.
Right. Like,
what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, I don't think I would actually say anything to her, but I would definitely take note of it.
I think you notice clearly as well too. She is actively avoiding eye contact with Skurg.
Oh.
So then she sort of walks away and goes and grabs the halberd and starts strapping her armor on.
Skurg has no such compunctions about not saying anything. He'll yell out to her, "Hey, Vaz, you have a man that you didn't tell me about?"
She shoots you a look, and she says, "When what business is that of yours?"
Well, I thought you would have been able to mention it in polite company.
Let me know when we find some. And she starts.
No, touche. That's a fair point, Vaz. A fair point.
Okay.
Dax is pretty polite.
She ignores you and is just getting her armor on. It does seem that seeing her with Skurg, she's even more antagonistic towards him than the rest of you guys. She's a bit prickly, but she seems particularly irked by Skurg.
I offered to help with the armor.
And she says, "Are you going to find a stool?"
Sure.
She shakes her head. That's great. So yeah, she gets her armor back on, grabs her halberd. Skurg, you drop off your smock that you've been wearing. You fix your what do you call it? You fix your get your armor back on, and you guys are ready to go.
Got the runic skin plating going.
Yes.
Actually, before we leave, Skurg will lean over to Ozzy and be like, "Does she have a man?"
He looks over at her and says, "No, it's she mentioned that there was someone she was looking for. The way she talked about him, it was when we were drinking that first night. You passed out because, you're a lightweight. But she was talking about looking for someone. Someone from her past, I think. A knight of some kind, maybe?" I don't know.
Well, shit.
So
wouldn't have been Sir Albus, would it?
Albus. That might have been the name, yeah.
Well, what the shit?
Do I hear what the shit?
That means something to you?
Albus was my brother, Ozzy.
Kind
How
of looks at
discreet
you.
was what the shit?
Huh. I wouldn't have figured her for one.
For one what?
Well, green fever.
Oh, no. Oh, no. Albus, well, he was human.
He looks and he says, "Oh. Huh. Well, that's interesting."
Wait a minute. She's looking for, but Albus died.
Your brother's dead?
Well,
And you probably would have brought that up too.
He says, "Yeah, I didn't know that's who you were talking about. Oh, my."
well, I got to go get a sword back. None of this is making sense. Are you sure she said it was him?
Now that she said this, you remember how she asked before about that, or mentioning that you had to get that sword back?
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember telling her that. You've been sort of occupied throughout all this stuff. All the stuff that's been going on in Serene, working on this thing, and whatnot too. It's just been a bit of a blessed break where you're not thinking about your grief and you're not thinking about your loss. It's not something you've talked to her, because she was otherwise a stranger to you before. The only reason you let her come along is because, and she stayed at least, is because you thought she was trying to track down Badonk and Wes.
All right, you know what? Skurg, we got shit to get to. Skurg's not gonna belabor the point, but he's gonna keep trying to find what her angle is. See if there are any markings that might affiliate her with a certain group, anything that she's carrying, or any indications that she might give that, like, to what, like, because at this point, Skurg fully understands that she has some ulterior motive.
Sure.
And he'll try to find out what that is.
Would you give me a wisdom check, please? And you know what I'll let you do is I'll let you add your burglar trait, because I think that's probably looking for an opening kind of thing.
Alrighty. So just +1?
Yes, and then you got no modifier to your wisdom.
Ugh.
Yeah, no. So you sort of are studying her as she's walking over, and she looks, and she kind of just stops and does this like what the fuck are you looking at kind of gesture at you, because you're unfortunately really conspicuously doing the kind of like.
What? Is it wrong for a half-orc to think you're hot?
She gets this look of, like, again, very, very briefly, this look of, like, absolute revulsion, and then kind of catches herself and says, "You couldn't handle it," and kind of goes off. But Badonk and Sir, both having rolled pretty well before, you know that that's not her usual, like, snappy stuff. She definitely was rattled by that.
Was the revulsion for real, or was it was she putting up a front?
No, that was for sure. She didn't intend to make that. Your experience with her so far, for all you guys, has been, if you would never know if you got to her. So this was a break in her otherwise icy cool facade.
Interesting.
All right, boys and lady. Who am I kidding? There ain't no ladies here. Let's go, boys.
She kind of hits you in the like kidney with the butt of her halberd. Go. That's more like the Vaz that you know.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
We're off to find a
So you
pegatour.
Auntbot and Ozzy behind, and you guys head off to the Pegatour Eries. Okay.
We're off to find Quinniston the pegatour.
We're going a little bit early for this guy. Do you want to take our bio break right now and then come back and finish up the rest of the session?
Sure.
Yeah. So why don't we take like 3 minutes right now, and then we'll come back and pick up with the Pegatour Erie.
Badonkadonk. So my phone has a chime on it that sounds like it's saying badonk.
Really?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hello, guys. All right. So, the Pegatours Eries. Let me just get to the page description.
Badonkadonk. Badonkadonk.
That's hilarious.
That's my timer. So whenever I set a timer and it goes off, it goes badonkadonk, badonkadonk. I'm like, hey, badonkadonk. Mr. Skurg, it's very nice to see you.
Okay. The Pegatours Eries. So the Pegatours of the city make their homes there. They're
Box text?
Ooh, they are territorial creatures and do not care for intrusions without appointments made beforehand. So, you guys are making your way into the Eries, and what you see is that this whole area seems much bigger buildings to account for the much bigger creatures, and walking around everywhere are these guys, these big, massive combinations of kind of bird and horse and elf, because these things all have long, slender, pointed ears as well too. They're not all just Frazetta style, shirtless, guys. A lot of them wear clothes and robes and whatnot too. And what you distinctly get the impression is that as you walk in, there's a lot of them are every one of them seems to be looking at you guys, and you get the feeling that everybody is sort of giving you that look of a very, very unwelcoming look. And it's about half a block before finally one of them, kind of clops forward and looks down at you and says, have you an appointment?
We've been appointed by the Sphinx.
What Sphinx?
The Lady Sphinx.
His eyebrow cocks up.
Badonk, did you get her name? I don't think we got her name.
You did.
Did we? I didn't really talk to her that much. I'll leave this to Badonk.
I don't remember her name. Did I write it down? Nope. Quiniston is the only guy's name I have.
Yeah, it's only been a day. I think you would have remembered. Her name was Pesachet.
Oh yeah, Pesachet. Right. I remember you gave her like a Pesachet.
Mm-hmm.
Pesachet has sent us to see Quiniston.
Yes. Come on, Quiniston. He needs us.
Looks down at you and kind of gets a look of like disapproval in his look. I'll take you to Pesachet. I'll take you to Quiniston. He turns and kind of walks along and doesn't look behind to see whether you're following him. But he clops along and he sort of like hops forward a little bit, propelled by his wings, and then down again. He turns back at you, and he's clearly moving a lot faster than you guys are able to move. Maybe not you, but like if you went full monk speed, you'd probably be able to keep up, no problem. But he's obviously he isn't pleased with you guys being in here. You've met one or two Pegatours outside of here, and they've not been quite this rude to you. But he gets to the corner, and he leads you through some of these areas here. And one of the things that is particularly different about this neighborhood is there are multiple entrances in these buildings. These buildings are 3, sometimes 4 stories tall, but there's not there doesn't appear to be any stairs or such leading up from one to the other. It's as if it's expected that only flying creatures would be in here. And you walk your way through here, and you get to a certain point. This is also, I think, it's probably This is the first neighborhood that you've been to that does not have paved streets in it. These are all fairly. It's earth that's been, or maybe gravel that is set out as the roadways along here. So you get to the end of this, after about maybe, I'll say about maybe 5 minutes or 10 minutes of wandering through the areas. He gets to one, and he stops, and he looks up at you're in front of a 3-story building, and he says he's on the top, and just stands there.
Oh, okay.
What are you guys doing?
Get in there, I guess.
Well, you look up, and there's
not a way for us to get up there at all.
Yeah, there's not an obvious way for you to get up there.
I'll look at him like, we don't fly.
I'm aware.
So I guess Quinston doesn't get to find out that we're here, and Sphinx doesn't get what we promised her, so I guess we'll just turn around and go back. And what was your name again, so we can tell him who to blame?
He looks down at you. His wings spread wide. He takes a couple steps back, kind of turns around, and then as he's galloping, he leaps into the air. And it's, you've seen probably quite a few of these things around in town, but it's pretty impressive seeing this enormous, like 8-foot tall creature leaping into the air. It goes around and then up and into the top one that he says that Quinnison is in, and he's gone for a little bit of time, and then you see him, that one that you were talking to, flies out and then arcs to the left and then leaves you guys standing in the street. It's about another maybe 30 seconds or so until this one kind of a little bit younger looking pegatours comes out and looks down at you guys. And he's got fairly long, like tawny brown hair, and he's got a bit of a thin beard around his chin as well. Looks down at you guys, and then he disappears, and then leaps himself out, and his wings go out wide. His coloring is a little less majestic than the other guy. It's not like the white with blonde hair and whatever else. This guy's got kind of a not a chestnut color, but like a light brownish color to both his wings and his the horse portion of his body. He turns around and then lands down. And Skurg, you think that he does have the exposed torso that a lot of these pegatours have, but you think you can see some recently healed wounds on him. Like you've seen magically healed wounds before, and sort of the red markings that they leave behind afterwards, kind of like a persisting welt. And there's definitely some markings of that on there. And he looks at you guys, and he's got a bit of his features are quite fine and quite attractive as well. Like a lot of these elves, they've got, it looks like as if you fuse an elf with some kind of Pegasus. But he looks a little sheepish, in spite of his fairly noble features, and says, You came at Pestichet's request?
Yes, that's right. We're here to help you.
She explained what happened?
Not at all. She said you needed help to retrieve your sword.
And he kind of looks around to see if anyone's listening. He says, perhaps we could go elsewhere to discuss this?
Sure. Your call.
We can't fly, though.
He looks at you guys and says, I can bear the two of you. I can't bear all four.
Do we have to go up there, or can we just go somewhere else?
I would prefer to go elsewhere. Perhaps. He mentions the Oiled Sprocket. And actually, Skurg, you're well familiar with that because it's one of the pubs that you went to. It's actually where you met Ozzy. It's sort of a like serves anyone who it's not one of the places that caters to just gnomes or just pegatour or whatever else. It's anybody can go to that place. They've got all sorts of they got big booths that you can kind of like lay down in or whatnot, or effectively like stalls where pegatour can go and drink with smaller people, without destroying chairs and stuff like that, as well as small like little kind of like stools and stuff like that for gnomes. Larger sort of like lounge chairs for the Nagpa and so forth. Are you familiar with that?
Well, I'm assuming Skurg would be.
Oh, yeah. Why don't we meet there, say, in an hour?
Perfect.
Thank you. And then he turns and trots around and then leaps himself up again. And you can see that at the same entrance that he's going to, you actually see two older looking, slightly older looking, but by no means old pegatour. The pegatour seem to be like elves, where they never seem to really show their age, but you can tell the difference between like a young adult and an adult. So you guys make your way out of the pegatour Eyrie with under the watchful eyes of all the pegatours as well. You make your way back over to the what do you call it? Gemai Market, and that's where you've been were drinking before, Skurg. When you walk in, there's a gnome proprietor who's behind the bar, and he says, "You're done already? More? I know what, Ozzy's got a big thirst, but you? Oh.
Are you complaining about us coming in and buying more booze?
Not at all. All are welcome. All are welcome." He gestures back to maybe a booth in the back. You pick a place that would be suitable for a pegatour, and you enjoy a couple of drinks. Wes, I'm guessing you're having water.
Nope, none. Not even water.
Okay. So roughly almost like precisely on the hour, and you can know that because of the big sort of chime that rings out. You're closer to the Hanging Gardens and the wind organ now too. So Badonk and West, having been near there too, you can hear the faint sound of the wind organ. Kind of like when you're when you're like 20 blocks away from like a carnival, you can kind of hear the sound of that drifting in on the wind. That's sort of what you guys can hear now coming from the wind organ.
Would we be kind of getting close to where that where Wes lost his dagger?
No, that happened well over around here in the Gnome Quarter, near where the Science Park is.
Right. Yeah.
And you guys are in the Gemai Market right now.
Okay, well, if we head back there, maybe I'll try and find that sewer.
Sure. So the at the hour mark, you see this guy, the same pegatour, walks in, and he kind of looks around. He sees you guys, and makes his way over. He doesn't seem thrilled to see you. He still has that look of kind of, I don't know. He's clearly upset by something. So he walks over and says, "Thank you for agreeing to meet here instead of in the Eries. This is something I'm embarrassed enough about that I don't need it revisited there, and I don't need them to know that I need help to fix this mistake. So, how do you know the Sphinx?"
Sphinx cured my little friend Wes here of a curse.
A death curse, apparently.
And she
Pretty
asked,
potent one.
And she asked you to help me in exchange?
Yes, exactly.
He kind of like nods knowingly as if something like makes sense to him. Okay. I take it you're from this region then? You know this area well?
Yes, we do.
We know Helix fairly well, and the Barrowmaze.
The woods northwest of town. or I'm sorry, northeast of town. I think you locals call it the Blackened Woods.
Mm-hmm.
You're familiar with those?
Yeah.
Well, I hear that the woods have some of the finest spider silk to be found anywhere in the region. And I had it in my mind to have something crafted for my beloved, and would see it made from the best material. So I went to the Blackened Woods 2 days ago. While there, I was able to recover some of the materials, but I was set upon by bandits, and mostly humans, but there were some dwarves in their number as well. I was able to escape, but I was injured, and in the course of escaping, they damaged what was securing my family's sword, and it fell. And I'm sure that they recovered it. This is a weapon of great importance to my family, and something that, for such a foolish purpose and such a foolish errand, I cannot live with the idea that I would leave it behind for the sake of such a silly endeavor. Now I know that I know the rough region where I was, and I asked the Sphinx to help me find the bandits' camp and to recover my sword. If she sent you, it makes me think that you could help me do that.
I think we probably could.
Mm-hmm.
Have you tried to retrieve it yourself?
And he kind of looks pretty embarrassed here. Knowing that these are sort of like a warrior people, the fact that he couldn't handle himself against some bandits, and on top of that lost his, family sword, he looks like his face is flushed with a bit of a pretty awful mix of like embarrassment and probably anger too. And he kind of struggles, through that to try and get out. Well, there were so many, and I don't think I can do it myself.
But surely you've tried to hire others before us.
No, I didn't want, if it gets around that I was not able to even keep the family sword, I will never become part of the Skywatch. And without the Skywatch, I'll be relegated to some other task, some other lesser task. My father is a respected member of the Skywatch, and the shame that would come from admitting the loss of that, I needed to find some other way to correct my mistake. I had hoped that the Sphinx would offer some sort of magical or sorcerous solution, but you never get quite what you want with the Sphinx, though.
So you must have given the Sphinx something pretty potent to get us to get your sword back.
He looks a little angry, actually, and he says, "I'd rather not talk about it."
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean anything bad by that. I just, we're doing this for you because I had a death curse. So clearly, the cost is high. I was trying
looks
to.
at you. He says, "You made the deal with the Sphinx, then?"
Well, I wasn't really in the right mind to do it, so my friend Badong here did all the talking.
And he looks at you, Badonk. He says, "Then you know."
The trickery of the Sphinx. Or you mean the pact?
Yes.
Yes, I do know.
So this could cost us our lives to get you your sword back, and hope we are successful.
Well,
I hope that getting rid of my curse is not going to cost my companions their lives.
the Sphinxes are wise and seem, well, they know much. I trust that she would not have sent so it would not have sent you had it not been within your capabilities to help me with this, though I think we would need some luck. There were many of the bandits.
Well, we should set off. Be gone. I believe this city is moving on in a day. Delay is not going to help.
Oh,
Well, I can bear one of the larger of you four, or two of the smaller of you two, but I cannot bear all four of you. The fastest way to reach there would be from air. That's how I know that area.
Hey, what about those flying contraptions, Mr. Skirk? Your buddy there built one, and doesn't your friend Badonk have a flying contraption?
yes. Maybe one of them would be willing to drop us off.
And maybe wait for us to pick us up, if need be.
Yeah, I'm sure Ozzy's dying to take Deli out for her maiden voyage.
He looks and he says, "Ozzy, do you mean Oswald Thistleborough?"
The one and the very same.
And only.
You're friends with him.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would use those words.
He has. I hear he's a gifted inventor, though. All Sky Gnome devices, they seem at times prone to malfunction. And Badonk, you get a cold fucking chill runs down your spine. Gnomish contraptions.
Dirty gnomes.
Two or three gnomes kind of look over at in your direction.
Well, that may be the truth, but I've been helping Ozzy to work out those kinks myself. So I feel with between the two of us, we've put together a pretty good product.
I see. Well, if he can follow, I can lead.
Hey, Badonk, can we go in the Ecto one? I think that would be safer.
Really? Well, they're both built by the same guy.
But it's flown.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
The
Mr.
Ecto
Skirt.
one, from because I think you guys would have had a chance to see that thing before. The Ecto one was, and actually, Wes, you haven't flown in it. Badonk has.
I just heard they have.
Yeah, like it certainly can accommodate like 4 or 5 gnome-sized creatures with some cargo as well, but really not much more. It's really designed. It was specifically designed for gnome size, so I don't think it would fit all 4 of you guys in there.
What about Della or Deli?
Deli? Deli's much bigger. Yeah, Deli seems like it's
Skirk size.
Yeah, it's a little bit more of like a cargo kind of vessel than the Ecto one, which seems to be something designed to transport that specific, team in and out of an area.
So maybe the Deli is our best bet then, because Mr. Skirk can ride in it.
You know what it looks like? Because you guys have seen some of those dog fighters that are around here too. The Ecto one is about the same size as one of those things, whereas the Deli is closer in size to the Cloud Clipper that brought you guys up here.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then we should go and see your friend Ozzy, Mr. Skirk, and see if we can get some help and then get moving on this.
Well, you seem a little apprehensive, Wes. Why don't you ride the...
I didn't realize they're both made by Mr. Ozzy.
No, that's fair. But hey, look, the horse has offered to give you a ride. I'll
He shoots you a look. Horse? And he's trying to compose himself. And through kind of gritted teeth, he says, I would think you of all would know better than to cast aspersions on their ancestry.
I didn't want to make an attempt to ride such a noble being. I think copter or flipper thing that Mr. Ozzy made would be better.
Well, no. I mean, did
Quiniston?
Yeah. Did our Pegatour friend here not offer to carry two of you?
I can do so.
If need be.
All right. Well, if you're that concerned, you
Like,
got
he's certainly
way up.
the thing with this guy is he is as big as like a riding horse, so he certainly could fit two of you guys on very comfortably, or Skurg or Vas.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I mean, this would be a great opportunity for Skurg to, hang out with Ozzy one last time and kind of proof the ship that he helped him build. So he's leading in that direction. But anybody else that is apprehensive can feel free to take option B.
What do you guys want to do?
Mr. Skurg, it's not because you built it or because Ozzy built it. I just don't... The flight, is that what they call it? Flight up here was kind of weird.
Wes, just take the Pegatour.
Okay.
I think didn't Wes really enjoy he had Wingtip flying alongside there, and he was feeling like how Wingtip felt.
He was apprehensive at first, but so yeah, bit of both.
Okay. Badonk, what do you think?
Badonk's happy either way. He's not afraid of the deli or riding on the Pegatour. So, but I mean, we obviously need both. So, well, I guess we don't technically need to ride the Pegatour.
Now we could go in the deli.
We can do it, Wes. You'll be fine.
Yep. I'll just pretend I'm Wingtip.
Okay. Then, obviously, if you talk to or when you talk to Ozzy, he's completely fine with that. I guess the only thing is when. It's probably maybe like 2 o'clock right now. So I imagine you could get out to that area by about like 4 o'clock, and it's still summer, so there's certainly quite a bit of daylight left.
Well, and I mean, there's really not a better time to attack bandits, so
Okay.
anytime is fine.
Any other preparations you guys want to make before you head out? Nada?
Nope.
Okay.
Are we coming back?
Is when?
Are we coming back here? Because this place is leaving tomorrow, right?
It is, yeah.
Are we coming back to the Serene before Badonk, Skirk?
No, I don't think so.
Then I want to try and find my dagger. It shouldn't take long. Because we're over at Ozzy's, I just got to go a little south.
Let's tell them we want to leave at, 6 or something like that.
Okay.
This won't take long. I just got to climb down a sewer.
Well, you got to find a sewer in a strange city that you only saw at night. So
that I could barely see.
Yeah.
And that I was like wounded and dying and trying to run away from it.
Well, actually, you were in a bag as well, too. So
I was in a bag going in.
Yeah.
And couldn't see.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to get you to make a a wisdom check. The difficulty is going to be a little bit high, and then I'm going to roll to see how many turns pass between each check.
Kev, would Skirk have an idea of the architecture of the floating city based on his crit earlier on?
I mean, in a sense that you would know where things might be, but like, I'm not sure you could help with this because he's got not very much to go on. Like, Wes was in a bag the whole time, and then when the donk saved him, it was in the middle of a magical sphere of darkness as well. So like, everything sort of works against them to try and find us.
Except I know where we were attacked.
You know where you're attacked, but
so we can start there. We can start there. I'm a tracker. I gotta use my tracking sense here to.
Okay, so about an hour and 20 minutes passes of Wes trying to like lead you around in this area, and unfortunately, he's just not. Maybe it's down this one here too. Maybe it's over here. And looking up, picking up sewers and looking down, there's nothing in it, and looking up sewers and there's nothing in it. So. Would you like to try again? You're now at about what did I say? 1 o'clock. So now it's
2.
I said 2. Okay, so now it's about 3:20.
Probably only got time for one more sweep. Come on, peerless hunter, track down your own darn dagger.
No. Oh, so on top of shit, that's like another hour and a half. So it's now just coming up to 5, and Wes has been sort of, like just one more thing, just one more one, one more place, and it's now 5 o'clock, and
we have to go. Okay, well, if the followers of Set ever catch up to us and ask about a dagger that I shouldn't have, we'll just tell them it's here.
Yeah, we'll tell them exactly where it is. In the sewers of this flying city of Sargent.
Yeah.
No big deal.
They'll believe that.
Well, how do they know you have it?
We'll talk about that another time. We have bandits to get.
All right. So you guys get set up with Dolly on the landing strip, which is where you take your the vehicles also take off. And if you picture kind of like the takeoff sequence or takeoff montage from Top Gun, but with gnomes and clockwork vehicles, that's kind of what you've got. And I'll tell you too, Chad and I were texting back and forth today, and I kept sending basically the lyrics for Danger Zone reworked to be Danger Gnome. So, also a side note, like that's a 32-year-old song, and for my entire life I thought that the chorus was "I went to the danger zone." It's "Highway to the danger zone."
Nice. Yeah.
I have to learn that today. Oh, Jesus. It's not like I've been fucking listening to Kenny Loggins all that much, I guess, but still, it was pretty funny. Okay, so then the once they get the go ahead, the little gnome with the glowing kind of sun rods goes, gestures forward, and Dolly kind of gets riding up and then takes off into the air. And Dolly, I'm kind of picturing like it's kind of got like a combination of like an old rickety biplane with like a Chinook helicopter. So it's got that kind of like fat body, but then these like biplanes things going out with two propellers on the end of them. And inside, wearing his mirrored goggles, and Skurg wearing a very teeny tiny kind of equivalent of it, just because they're originally built for gnomes. There's the two of them who kind of at the pilot and co-pilot chair.
Mr. Skurg.
Yeah. So, excuse me. Who else is in the dolly? Or it's Deli, not Dolly. Sorry.
Yeah, the deli. I think we all went in there if there's room
Yeah.
for everyone.
So then you see that on the, having gone a wing itself himself too is Quiniston, and he starts, heading off in the direction. And because of the time of day, there's that low hanging sun in the west. And even though I know you guys are actually flying to the east for cinematic purposes, we see you guys as silhouettes flying into the sun. And then you quickly say, "Are we riding in the right direction?" And you veer over, and having captured that cinematic moment, you guys go along. It's about 2 hours to get out to where you are. So it is 7 o'clock. So the sun is getting low. The shadows are starting to be cast across the forest. And Skurg, as you're looking down at this forest, it's not the same area, mind you, but it is the same forest in which you had that encounter with that twisted druid and had that vision quest of the dragon's shadow cast over this. And that just being so high up and flying over the canopy, it really feels like you're back in that vision where you're high above and going by. What Quiniston also told you before you guys set out was that there was a lake nearby. That's sort of where he was exploring, and that's near where he was ambushed. Not a huge thing, but there are a number of small bodies of water that populate this entire kind of region. But it's you guys finally do manage to get to that area. You would have had a chance to talk beforehand. Do you want to land and then explore it? Or do you want to sort of survey from the air? Now, the Blackened Forest does have fairly thick, primordial canopy, so it probably is fairly difficult to see from above. But what do you?
Yeah, I think we would land and get our bearings.
Okay.
We're not really used to aerial views.
Skurg, what? Yeah, that's very true, Jeff. What Ozzy gives you as well is some kind of alchemical firearm, and what he tells you is just, point it up, pull the trigger on this, and it will signal me to come back. I'll be circling along with Otbot. You can hear and clunk clunk is clanking around in the back. So send up the signal, and we'll come in and get you.
Sounds good.
Okay, so you guys are dropped off. There's sort of, he brings old Dolly down, and then as it gets lower, it does this weird thing where the wings sort of like arc back a little bit and then curve a little bit, kind of being strained in by these cables that are pulling out. Slows the thing way, way down, and then it arcs up, and it's basically hovering there. And you can hear the Aussie from the pilots. He says, "Ha ha, Skurg, you were right. Just like you said.
Yeah, it's a nice touch, eh?
It's going to be lovely. We just think, we can get this into the whole fleet." And you guys are, hop out, and it's about a maybe 3 or 4 foot drop down. And then the deli just roars forward and kind of does a low arcing swoop over the lake, and then takes back up into the air, leaving you guys behind. And around that time is when Quiniston kind of lands on the ground too, gently. He's carrying a looks like a dagger and then a bow. So he says, "All right, this is around the area. Where do we go from here?"
Do we recognize anything about this area at all?
None of you guys have been here before, no.
Okay.
Do I recognize any of it from my vision?
From the vision, no. This is, the Blackened Forest does stretch fairly. Let me actually, I'll move the map over, guys, so we can see the map of the region. Boom. Okay. So as you can see, the Blackened Forest sort of stretches fairly far over the northern part of the Duchy of Eric, and where you guys are is probably somewhere around here. And where you were before, Skurg, was somewhere up around here. You were west, northwest of Helix, whereas you've now gone about north east.
But Wes's been in the Blackened Forest several times to get
Absolutely.
herbs and stuff like that. So it's not entirely foreign to me. I'm going to ask the Pegator if he's got any idea of where he had the skirmish or where he was chased. The tracks won't be completely gone. It's only been a day.
He thinks that this is the shore that he was on. So, maybe if we went up and down. That's an awesome mug, Dave.
Oh, thank you.
If we, I thought it was a Ninja Turtle.
There we go. Awesome.
That's great. I've got a friend of mine, actually Drew. I think some of you guys have met. A couple of years ago, he got me a Black Panther mug, which is the coolest fucking thing. But it's got those ears on the side that make it so difficult to drink. So either I can hold it by the mug and like pour it into my mouth, or hold it backwards like a teapot. So super cool looking thing, just really awkward to drink from. Hey, nice.
Winter is coming.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Okay. Wes, from what he said, like maybe if you walk around a bit, you might be able to try and get a sense of what tracks are here.
Okay, I will do some tracking using my hunter skills.
Sure. Did you bring Wingtip with you?
Oh yeah, Wingtip's always with us. So
Wingtip, I think, didn't fly alongside you. Maybe he was inside the thing, but he's taken off and is aloft now. Mm-hmm. Why don't you give me a wisdom check, and then I'm thinking
my hunter.
Yeah, I think absolutely you can add hunter to that.
Now, is this my peerless hunter, or do I have to have that peerless hunter when I've got somebody in?
Well, peerless hunter is something that applies to your combat. Do you mean the nature guardian, the specialist ability?
Yeah, I don't know. This isn't really more nature. This is more hunting than nature.
No, I think that's what I'm saying. So I don't think your foci applies here, or your focus applies here. And peerless hunter is a combat ability. So
okay, so then it's just my hunter trait.
Yeah, hunter trait plus wisdom.
Okay, so 2d8 plus 6.
Yes, please. Whoa!
The plus 6 helps.
It's very so. Wes gets ahead, and Wes, having spent, anytime you're in town, it's always a little, the bigger the community, the less kind of comfortable you are with the setup. A flying city full of alien creatures all sort of crammed together has been a very. It's probably one of the reasons why you drank so much last night, is because it just, it's a really unsettling area. And this is absolutely your element, back amongst the trees and the boughs of the Blackened Forest, somewhere where you've spent now months, in your downtime, kind of learning the byways and paths and what secrets of this forest. And it's very, very short period of time before you find some fairly recent tracks, including the hoof prints that you assume are from your flying friend.
Okay. I will just wave them along, and I'll start following the tracks.
Okay. You don't do a man tracker thing and explain what all the tracks are?
No, they know what I'm doing. They've seen me do this before.
That may be too obscure of a reference, but we had one Christmas where, like, for whatever reason, they had a marathon of that. So, like, the whole family was together and we watched nothing but Man Tracker for about 3 days straight.
And I'm not going to mansplain either.
Nice. Okay, so you what do you call it? You find that tracks, and the tracks seem to lead further in to the what do you call it? Into the forest. And I think you actually find you rolled like well enough to, as you're making your way along, you're looking up and you can see there's a point where there's some broken branches and maybe a couple and fairly fresh as well too, with that like
aeronauts.
Yeah. Not so much aeronauts is. Oh, you've got an aeronaut, you mean?
No, like there's like notches where an arrow would have been jammed in and someone would have pulled their arrow out.
No, you think it's where something fairly large would have crashed through the underbrush. So you think you found a place where Quiniston actually took to the air to get away from these things.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If you look in the ground, there's there's definitely signs of skirmish, and maybe you actually might find, looking up, you can see there's an arrow not like actually still lodged fairly high up, where it looks like one of these rogues tried to take him down.
Okay. I'll just point to that and keep going and keep my eye on the tracks. And
Quiniston gets he's glaring at it.
Yeah. I will knock an arrow though, because you never know when that's going to be needed.
Okay. So you knock your arrow and you continue following the tracks. Now, it only takes you about maybe, actually, fuck it, I'll roll randomly. Let's see how many turns. Here we go, guys. How many? I won't be more than an hour, so let's just see here. All right, so it's about half an hour of following these tracks through, and you're making pretty good movement before you get to the sort of the edge of this encampment. And Wes, you're leading, so you sort of get to where you are, and then you quickly hold up your hand, and everyone stops behind you. And what you find is that there is this. It looks like there's a small creek that seems to run through the forest. It's rife with these types of things in different areas, and it looks like there's an encampment that's been built around here. And as you're looking around, it does seem like it stretches to the far side of the creek, and there's a bit of a palisade that seems to have been set up as well too. But even from where you are, you can see that there is there's something unusual.
Can I get a better view if I go up?
Well, what you can see is that, for one, three things. One thing, there does not appear to be any movement. There's not a single. What do you call it? Human, dwarf, any of these things that they'd mentioned.
No sentries, nope.
No. Second thing is, on the far side of the bank, it appears that there are what you would expect from rough living bandits. There are like lean-tos and things like that have been crafted as sort of like crude structures. Those, at least half of them, have been smashed, and it seems as if there is sort of that there's a line of where these things have been smashed. And the third thing is, on the far side of the bank, there it sort of goes up to a crest, and then it kind of leads over and then deeper into the foliage. And you can see the rough kind of features of the palisade that's built there, but you can't see anything. You have to get closer to get more information. But just along the crest, it looks like there's this weird patch of brambles that is unnatural. When you can look at a park and you'd be like, okay, that was placed there by some, architectural or landscape architect or something like that, and it just looks out of place.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that. This patch just doesn't belong there. You know in your gut that it just wouldn't grow that way, and there's a ton of brambles, almost like wrapping over, and there's a mound of them about probably about 6 to 8 feet in diameter.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back before I try to get any further by myself, and alert the others of what I saw.
Okay.
So I'll go back and I'll let them know that there's a palisaded area up ahead. Looks like some kind of encampment, but there's no movement. There's no sentries. There's no sound. And there's a whole bunch of structures that have been smashed. The weirdest part is a bunch of brambles. There's a whole bunch of brambles that don't look like they belong to this part of the forest. I don't know. I've never seen brambles like that. And they're everywhere. They're like, just like the palisades or the forts crowded with brambles.
Well, maybe like some nature magic has grown them?
I don't know. Something unnatural. Something doesn't belong.
Well, is it enough for us to care about it?
Just wanted you to be aware. I don't know. Does that make anything? I looked to the pegatours. Does any of this sound like the guys that you fought?
He shakes his head and he says, "And None of them. They used weapons on me, not magic.
So, knowing that this wasn't just maybe a bunch of bandits, the Sphinx sent us because, I'm just thinking the Sphinx is, it's not easy. This is weird. It's not what you thought it was going to be. This fits. Okay.
Were they?
Wes is making some sort of weird connections
Sure.
in his head and it don't make sense to anybody else, but...
Were the bandits? This is the Quineston. Were they not there?
I didn't see or hear of any of them. There would always be sentries at any kind of outpost, fort, even just a camp.
It's very strange.
Shall we investigate? We need to know more.
No.
I didn't want to go in by myself, though.
That's the
I can-
spirit with us. All right. So Skurg will take point then.
Okay. Skurg, what does he draw? Because he's back to having his full slate of weaponry too.
Yeah. Well, let's see what he has. He will draw his. He's kind of partial to his mace.
Okay. So what you're because you're a spellcasting class, Skurg, just so you understand too, your basically so in other versions, other more modern versions of D&D, and actually dating back to AD&D as well, there have always been these spells called cantrips, and cantrips are just generally like minor kind of utility abilities. Rather than actually give you lists of those things, what I'm going to let you do is if you're a spellcaster, you can use your spellcasting trait, which in your case is self-taught alchemist. You can use that to do in non-combat scenes to do small little utility things. Like say if you wanted to, apply a solvent or maybe a lubricant to try and help pick a lock, I'd let you apply that trait to it instead. If you wanted to make a little solvent that would, as long as you shook, or a little concoction that as long as you shook it, it gave off light like a torch, I'd let you do that too. Sure. It just needs, though, whatever magical abilities you make that are non-combat, those just need to have a concentration duration. Like when you stop concentrating on it, then it stops functioning. You can also in combat use them to make a cantrip attack. Now, I've just got it listed on your sheet as a cantrip attack, but what I would expect is you give me, it's your way to be able to constantly do alchemical shit without having to rely on your resonance. It's not as powerful as your alchemical bombs or things like that, but it's a little way for you to constantly be alchemical, in combat. You just describe for us, like you fill in the description of what kind of it is, like whether it's a splash of some kind of solvent or acid, or whether it's a, you mix two volatile chemicals together and you toss it off and it's an explosive force or whatever narrative thing you describe it as, we'll use that to interpret how it functions. If there's some kind of special ability, like something's vulnerable to fire, vulnerable to acid, but damage-wise, it just does what it's listed there. So it'll just do, all of your cantrips will always be plus 5 to hit, which is your base attack plus your trait. And they all do 1d4 plus 3 damage. The plus 3 comes from your intelligence. And then the damage type depends on whatever you described it as.
Okay.
Makes sense? So that gives you a couple opportunities to be fun and creative with your alchemical abilities.
Okay.
Okay. So, so anyway, what do you get on point then?
Well, I think Skurg still has his Morning Star drawn, and then
Okay. Nice.
He will, in his other hand, he will have, let's say, Alchemist's Fire.
Nice. Okay, so you've got one of your prepared Alchemist Fire, and you start stepping forward. Who is next, guys? Wes is next.
Yeah.
An arrow knocked as well. Badonk, what are you doing?
Yeah, he'll be following along, doing the usual slightly stealthy movement.
Okay. Are you working? Are you walking with them, or are you trying to keep yourself hidden as well?
Keeping myself hidden.
Okay. Why don't you give me a dex check and then add whatever, I think probably stealthy goblin or sneaky goblin would apply there. Unless, say, Badonk, you told me that what I'm going to do is, because there's trees, I've told you there's trees around there, is you're going to spring up and kind of go like limb to limb to limb.
Oh yeah, like with my new ability.
Yeah.
My leaping ability. My new monk jumping ability.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe he's like sort of moving along up high in the trees now.
Sure. Then in which case, why don't you add your circus acrobat trait?
Oh.
It'll be +1 more. So still it's a 10. Okay, so you're moving your way along. This is sort of a new ability, so you're a little more conspicuous than I think you would have liked, but it's not like
you're
you're
getting a feel for it.
Yeah, definitely. You're misjudging the lengths of your leaps. So you're making your way along, along the trees. You guys are walking your way in, and holding up the rear is Quineston, who's trotting along, his big, a composite bow out as well too, kind of.
And Vasquez.
Oh yeah, and Vasquez, right? Where do you guys want Vasquez to be?
She can come after me.
Okay, she's got her big halberd of hers out, and it's kind of looking around and going back and forth. I love it that James picked it being a halberd too, because I can picture her doing basically the same kind of movements she did with that big ass gun, but with a halberd instead. So she's making her way out, and and as you're walking a little closer, Skur, you can see there is that, like he described, there's a small little like circular kind of hedge of brambles. But as you get to within about 5 feet of it, you can see there's something poking out from inside.
Uh,
you look at it, and it's a boot.
Uh-oh.
Toe facing up.
I will try to pull it out.
So you step closer to get it, and then you look up, and you kind of step back. The brambles have not, well, they've grown over and through the fallen body of some human. It's a man who's, you can't really make out like age or whatnot, but you can definitely he looks greasy and whatnot. But the brambles have partly wrapped around his limbs, and then also like jammed themselves into his eye, his nose, his mouth, and you can see there are bloody places where it's punctured through in his skin as well too. And
wow.
Can I do a nature guardian check with my foci to see if this is a natural bramble?
You don't need to do that. This is
brambles don't do that normally.
This is absolutely unnatural, and I'll even give you two. You look down, and there is a sickly, dry, broken, or parched kind of character to these brambles. They don't even look healthy. So this is, as a nature guardian, that druidic magic can do this kind of stuff, but druidic magic works with healthy, vibrant, primal forces. This seems sick.
I'll warn everybody to stay away from the brambles. This is not any kind of natural brambles. This didn't just happen. These are like some kind of sickly, carnivorous or life-stealing or whatever you want to call it.
After you say that, everyone kind of looks down at this thing, and the only sound you really hear is the buzzing of insects over this thing's body.
Skurg turns to Vasquez and says to her, "Hey, Vasquez, I think I found your boyfriend. He must have jumped in here when he heard that you were coming for him."
Skurg, I think maybe we should test it. And she kind of, pushes you just a little bit so you get a little closer to the brambles. Like, whoa, hey.
Can you two do this later?
Skurg will also commune with the
Are you trying to connect again with the green man or whatever?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. So what I'll get you to do is it'll be a wisdom check, and I'll let you add religious dilettante to that.
Okay.
Religious dilettante.
Yeah, I figured that was the best way to describe his kind of experiment with different religions. Okay, so you describe for me how you're trying to get into contact with this. Oh, you know what I'll do? Actually, you're going to get +1 to it because of your tattoos as well. So you reach out and the same kind of revulsion, kind of like instinctive, like backing off that you felt when you sensed that rot that was associated with the other druid, that tainted, that one with all the burns and whatnot on his face. You definitely get that sense from this, and actually from a lot of this area. It seems to be very cold and sickly, is how you feel.
Whatever druid concocted this has been corrupted, like the one that I had met in the Blackened Forest previously.
At Hearn's Glade?
That's right.
Oh. Okay, then definitely want to be careful of this stuff. I want to get a better view. Is there a way I can, do a little parkouring up the broken palisades?
Absolutely.
Using my monkey pin?
Palisades are a little further away. There's probably like an oak tree or something that's kind of hanging over the river, or the creek rather, so that you could easily just especially with your monkey pendant, you can just scramble up and you look down and your stomach sort of like goes cold. Because that path of destruction through those lean-tos that you saw, there are marks on the ground, tracks that seem to lead through that entire area. And each of those tracks appears to be some kind of reptilian print that is about probably about 1.5 to 2 feet across each.
I can see that now that I'm higher up and I'm looking down.
Higher up, you're looking down and you can see clearly, like, there's this and from the depth of the indentation, it seems to be a fairly heavy creature as well.
Guys, those smashed lean-tos, the damage continues on inside the palisades.
Actually, you look over, and that's actually what you can see. The palisades, it seems like they've been smashed down right near where this path goes.
And there's some kind of lizard tracks, and I'll describe the prints in the depth. And if I can figure out, based on other creatures that I've tracked, this creature's got to be large or huge in size.
One thing you can pick up, just because of your, I think your expertise can pick this up. This appears to be something that walks on 2 feet, not 4.
Walks on 2 feet. Okay. Because of the placement of the feet, you can see that even steps or not. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's bipedal, really large. Okay, so I'm talking like, am I talking bigger than that giant that we saw, the 20-foot tall giant, or around that size? Because I was walking right near him, I would have seen how big his feet were. And
yeah, the feet are probably they're not as long. I mean, like these things are the size. Yeah. There's definitely, from looking down, you can see there are pretty vicious claws on the end of those things as well.
Okay. We're thinking like giant with clawed feet, kind of lizardish thing. So, not going to be hard to track, Mr. Pegatours. I'm guessing.
Why don't you give me a Wes? Give me a Nature Guardian check with an intelligence check with Nature Guardian, and remember you're rolling 3d8 and taking the 2 highest. That one.
So do I just tell it to roll 3d8?
Yeah, you just do that. Just say roll 3d8 plus Nature Guardian is 2 as well.
I don't have a bonus for intelligence, so I will just go the +2.
Yeah. What do you get? Yeah, both. Okay, so that's 13, 15 is your best roll. So yeah, so you look at these things and you think you can guess what this might be. Two-legged, seems to appear from nowhere. Given the size of this stuff, this might be a wyvern.
Ooh.
Your also stomach kind of gets cold because you know that
Those are not easy creatures to confront.
well, the poison of a wyvern as well is among the most deadly in all of nature.
Mr. Pegatour, how badly do you want your sword? Because it looks like a wyvern has come through here.
He looks up at you. What?
Yeah, the size of the depth, the clawed feet, the damage. This is all pointing to a wyvern.
His face has gone completely ashen, and he's looking up at the air. Wait here. And he leaps up and takes to the air, leaving you four behind. Vasquez says, where's he going?
Yeah.
Maybe to get help, maybe to flee. I don't know. We still have a duty to the Sphinx, though. We can't.
Well, no, our duty is to him now.
Right, and our duty to him is to get his sword. Correct? That was the deal we made? So do we want to just at least look through the camp, make sure it's not here?
Wouldn't hurt.
Okay. I'll launch.
Can anybody do any recon without getting caught?
Well, it looks like there's nobody alive here, so I don't think we have to worry about that. Wyvern would be easy to spot. It's huge. So maybe just hunker down while I search. Unless you guys want to help search.
Sure. Well,
yeah, I mean, we all might as well search. It's much faster, isn't it?
Sure. Just stay away from the brambles.
Skurg will actually use a cantrip attack to see if he can purify the brambles.
With
fire. So your cantrip attack is an actual attack, right? Like, and what I'd prefer is just to say, like, I'm going to use my, I'm going to quickly, I'll shake a, a vial that I have that has something like an acid in it, and then toss that or whatever.
Actually use it as an attack.
But that's for the attacks. For your other stuff though, is like, if you want to try and cobble together like a some kind of alchemical purifier, yeah. I mean, given your religious dilettante, how well you rolled before, why don't you give me? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to just like to get away the taint or whatever that's there?
Basically, because I figure if he can brew an anti-plague, which this shouldn't be out of the realm of the impossible form.
Absolutely. Why don't you give me an intelligence check with your self-taught alchemist at it. So it'll be, I think, 3d8 plus 6.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, sure. Not. Sorry, I said 3d8. I meant 2d8. Sorry. But even with the lowest two of those, it's still a success. So that's fine. So you look at what's down there. You take the alchemical kit off your back. You mix a couple things together. You look at it, and leaning in, you do something that you normally don't do with your alchemical goods, which is you whisper a prayer. And the weird thing is you actually don't understand the language you're speaking, but you know it's a primal plea issued to the Green Man. And as you do, you see it takes on a slightly different color. You look over.
I'll use my my tattoos as an indication of how close it comes to what I want it to be.
Sure. So
excess of it kind of resonates in Skirg's tattoos.
Sure. And they actually take a slight greenish glow to them. And as you continue talking in this language that you really don't understand, but you know it to be true, you reach out across and then sprinkle this like as if you were using like a sensor to bless the area. And where your droplets fall, there are these beautiful white flowers that it suddenly becomes green and flowers bloom. And once you are finished, there is a carpet of white flowers with beautiful, like purplish blue centers to them, the seeds that now cover this entire area where that blight once was. You guys look over at him, and as the light fades, you see that the tattoos seem a little darker now.
Interesting.
Hey, Mr. Skirk, your whatever you just did, your tattoos are darker. Just letting you know.
Well, thanks for the heads up, Wes.
Observation.
Badonk and Wes and Vaz. Vaz is looking a little bit in awe of this stuff. But also kind of keeping an eye out. Wes and Badonk, what are you guys doing during that time?
Honestly, I'm watching them.
Okay,
it's fascinating.
I'm searching around, checking lockboxes and what bodies I can see without getting too close to brambles.
Okay,
so see if we can find this pegatours sword.
You so you're going into the actual camp?
Yeah, I'll drop down.
Sure. So you drop down and you make your way in, and you're sort of being as secretive as you can. You find that there are, there's probably about like 30 bodies in here, all either horrifically torn apart as if by some enormous creature. There are places where you're finding body parts, but there is 2 or 3 bodies that have been completely scorched as if by some massive brand of some kind. But they haven't caught fire, though. You might think that it would be a lightning strike of some kind. There are also places where it looks like there once were more sturdy structures standing in here, but there are like unnatural waves and motions of stone that have smashed their way through these, or otherwise just given out into a pit. There are also several other patches of that same brambles where these people have been pulled in. And in fact, you can see 1 or 2 where there's hands that are clawing out as if trying to escape, but they've been punctured through and kind of worn, like held in place by the same sickly, dry, but very, very strong brambles.
So most of these are armored and armed and caught, as they normally would be.
Yeah, like it's rough. Do you remember the guys that you saw that one time with that woman?
Yeah,
those rough-looking guys. It's not like you don't recognize any of them, but they're very much like that. These are bandits. They have poorly maintained. Bandits. Yeah, the best shit they could steal off of the bodies they wanted to rob. The mishmash of equipment, that kind of stuff.
The occasional coin purse with like some gems in it.
There's actually a fair amount of. I'll roll the loot for this afterwards, guys, because it's an actual hoard that you're able to recover from here.
Yeah, well, I'll start pointing out or snipping as I go, so I don't have to circle back. And
so, actually, before you go, you think you hear a sound from some living creature.
Oh,
look over, and it's actually by the latrines. And Wingtip flies over. So remember that because of you don't have that like animal bond ability right now. So this is just like a pet.
Yeah, but I was actually trying to get Badonka and Skirg's attention.
Oh, okay.
So there's somebody here. I can hear them.
you guys have finished up.
Yeah,
and
I guess we'll head over.
so you walk over and you see Wes seems to have his bow, with those fine markings from that Valerian or Valeron did for on them.
Thornwild Elves bow.
Yeah, and what are you gesturing to, Wes?
I'm gesturing to where I heard the sound, and I'm like, I heard something right there, and I start moving forward with my bow draw.
And it's a latrine. It's like a little latrine slit.
Well, I'm not going to get too close because I'm not going to be able to open a door with my bow in hand.
Okay.
I'll wait for someone else to assist.
What are you guys doing? Badonk, Skurg, and Vaz. Vaz looks at you, Skurg, and says, and kind of gestures to her halberd. She says, "I can't fit in there. This seems your territory."
Yeah,
Well, all right. Well, I mean, let's find out what's in there. I'll pull the door. You guys be on the ready. Actually, you know what? I wonder if Skurg has anything that he could use to...
Sorry, I had to sneeze.
Sure. Where's my anti-poop ability?
Yeah.
Poop bomb.
I wonder if you could throw a Tanglefoot bag in there.
Probably, yeah, if someone else throws a door open, it easily.
What if it's someone's cat?
For you.
All right.
Okay. So you guys time it carefully, and well, you throw it open, and you toss your Tanglefoot bag in there, and as soon as it hits, it kind of ropes out to this stringy, tendrily kind of material, kind of covering the inside. But there's no one in there. Although, Wes, you hear someone cry out, "Ah, ah, ah!"
Somebody's in the hole? Somebody's hiding in the latrine hole. And he's pointing down. Past your Tanglefoot.
But I'll just close the door. They're gone.
Okay.
Wes is like, what? No, they're in the hole.
Yeah, no, I know where they are, Wes. Unless you're willing to go down there.
Wes starts coming forward. What if they know what happened here? They can give us an idea. Or
all right, well, I'll hold the rope then. Down you go. And Skurg starts tying the rope around Wes's.
I don't have to go down for them to come up. You just need to give them rope. I'm not climbing into the shitter.
Yep, bird.
Huh?
Here, take the sun rod and go down there.
No. There's no amount of convincing that I'm going to go into the shitter. But I have my own rope if you don't want to lower yours into the shitter.
No, be my guest.
Okay. Well, I'll crack the sun rod and drop it down on whoever's down there so they can see them.
Okay. So the inside is now full of a Tanglefoot bag, so there's a bit of effort to get that thing out. Skurg, I imagine with your self-taught alchemy trait, you could put together some kind of solvent or some kind of counter adhesive or whatever to sort of clean that shit out and make it easier to pull it off. You flash and drop it down, and you hear no from down there. And if you look down now, the sun rod is casting light in that area, and you can see that there is somewhat covered in filth. There is a blonde-haired and bearded figure down there, human, who's looking up and sort of like hugging up against the edge of the pit.
You're safe, man. There's no one here that's going to harm you if you don't try anything.
No, get me out of here. Get me out of here.
What happened here first?
It's coming. It's going to come back.
What's going to come back?
That thing.
Dear sir, please remove...
Get me out of here. Get me out of here. Get me out of here.
Man.
And he just keeps yelling it over and over again. He's in completely lost to panic at this point.
Well, Wes?
You got any anti-panic thing in your alchemical ingredients? Lower the rope down.
Okay.
let him start pulling himself out.
As soon as he gets like with the ropes gets within reach, he grabs it and is trying to pull himself up. You guys manage to sort of between the two of you, secure it well enough. And the guy pulls himself up out of it, and then over the edge of the loo, and then down to the ground, and scrambles out. And then he sort of like pushes his way past you guys and gets out. Runs out into sort of the clearing and looks around. It's like, oh god, oh god.
What happened here?
It came and killed, and he was here.
He
and Skurg. There's something weird about this guy. You're looking at him, and this is northern guy, someone from one of the northern tribes that has been in these regions for thousands of years. He speaks with a northern accent as well. And despite his current status, you do recognize his voice.
Is that the guy who dueled Sir Albus? Do we recognize him from the one?
He's definitely looking a lot dirtier and a little more, because as you remember before, when you first met him, his armor was brand new. It was one of the reasons why you questioned his suitability.
Right.
Is Stagander, the guy who was the wannabe warrior who was nearly killed by Sir Albus.
Almost actually died if it wasn't for the lay on hands.
Yeah. So what do you guys do? He's just kind of raving, and he looks wild-eyed. He's near on the break of panic or retreating into a kind of madness with the level of fear he's gone through. What are you guys doing?
We don't have anything to calm him down.
Skurg, can you do anything to calm him down?
I mean, he's at this point just kind of touched in the head, right, Kev? Like he's
you're not I don't know if you know. I mean, like he seems on the verge of that. He's just really fucking scared. Something arrived here, destroyed the entire camp. He seems to have taken refuge and somehow survived by hiding in a shit pit. And you guys have pulled him out now. So that's sort of what his mindset's. Lord knows how long he's been down there.
And traumatized.
Yeah. So he's not gone yet, but he seems like he's pretty fucking on the close to panic right now.
Would it make any difference to use the whatever purification elixir that Skurg used on the brambles on him would that calm him? Or
if he was somehow affected by some kind of magical thing that was related to corruption, maybe, but not in just a general calming kind of way.
How about just a really heavy dose of liquor? You got something that'll calm the nerves?
Well, I mean, Skurg always has a flask on him.
So you guys are sort of talking back and forth about how to try and calm him down. When you see kind of flying through the small clearing in the what do you call it? In the opening is your pegatours friend. Oh. He lands, and he's got a look of incredible panic in his eyes, and he looks like he's sweating. And he says, "We have to go now. Message your friend."
Skurg, light the...
Okay. Pull out the thing.
Alrighty. Skurg will...
There's just tell the emergency there. You hear the Stagander say, too late! And there's this enormous shadow that falls over your clearing.
Oh, shit.
Stagander just collapses to his knees and is weeping like a child. The thing leaves, so light comes in briefly before some massive form crashes through the bushes, slamming into the ground. And something that looks very much like this. snarls at you all. Its wings spread out wide. Its tail whipping around. A barb the size of a man's arm at the back, arcing over as if having a mind of its own and trying to find a destination. But more disturbing is what rides atop its back.
The creepy druid?
This is not the being that you met before, Skurg. Something different. But you know that this is flush with the same dark and corrupting power of that other being. This one, however, seems to be a creature of much fewer words. For all it does is gesture towards you and say, we'll see you guys next session.
Shite.
So, for those listening at home, thanks so much for joining us for session. I have it listed as section 22. It's actually session 23 of the Barrowmaze campaign. Let me just get out of our camera here. I'm going to exit the game. Boom. Turn my camera back on. Turn the screen sharing off. Stop screen sharing. Put that back on. All right. So, yeah, there we go, guys. I'm sure things will work out. Come on. It's just a, blighted druid and a wyvern. You guys can handle that, I'm sure.
Yeah, it only killed like 30 people or 30 armed warriors in a camp. I'm sure we'll be fine, the four of us.
So, for those listening at home, thanks so much for joining us for this Friday night session of the Barrowmaze campaign. Hope you've enjoyed. But as always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns regarding the session, please don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section below. You can shoot me a message on Twitter at Dungeon Musings, all one word and plural, or shoot me an email at dungeonmusings@gmail.com. In addition, if you want to listen to more of me, you can find me on Anchor and a bunch of other podcasts apps on the Dungeon Musings Anchor podcast. So if you search for Dungeon Musings, either on Anchor or Stitcher or any other of your favorite podcasting platforms, you can find that. We don't do actual plays on that, but it's just me discussing some other aspects of role-playing and the playing of such games. Also, if you are enjoying the campaign, the episodes, I'd ask that you consider checking out the link we have below to the Heroes Save Villages campaign. That is a charity fundraising campaign that we are running through the channel. It's paired up with the SOS Children's Villages International charity, which is a really terrific charity that provides both advocacy and direct benefits for kids living in very, very difficult circumstances. There are a variety of different rewards that we've got. All the money that's donated goes directly to the charity. And the rewards include things like working with me to come up with a cool NPC with a very cool secret to add to the campaign, like Vazquez. And finally, I want to give a big, well, I guess first off, that is, of course, completely optional. Please don't feel obligated to make any contribution. I just ask that if you have enjoyed the channel, the episode, the campaign, to just consider looking at the donation, looking at the campaign and learning a little more about Heroes Save Villages. Last, but certainly not least, I want to thank my players for such a fun session tonight. Jeff, Dave, thank you very much for spending your time with me, guys.
It was fun. Thanks, Kev.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Kev.
of course. So, what will happen to our intrepid heroes? Will they become fodder for the wyvern? Or will they be able to stand against the power of the dark druid? Find the answers to these questions and more soon. Thanks all. We'll see you again soon.